Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Gyle here, and welcome back to the Forged Alliance Forever promotional series. It's that time of the week once again, ladies and gentlemen. That's right, Monday afternoon. Wah, wah, wah. Fear not, I come bearing gifts of RTS goodness to send you on your merry way to a warm and refreshed working week. That's right, it's going to be a ladder match, and it's going to take place on Roanoke's Abyss. So let's go over to the game zone and see how they're going to get on. I don't really know why I'm talking like that, but it's all good. It's all good. Roanoke's Abyss, we're all pretty familiar with by now. Needs no introduction, but our players work very hard. They deserve one. So here we go. Up here in the red corner, we have RO's Stefan. We've been seeing quite a bit of this guy recently. He loves to send in replay, and to his credit, more than half of his replays are definitely worth a watch, so well done to him. And he's going his ever so customary Cybran, opening first land, second air. And his opponent in this one, down here in the 6 o'clock position in the blue corner, going Seraphim, is Hammac. I don't think I've casted this chap before, not too familiar with him. But he's opening first land and then second, third and fourth air. So expect heavy air play from him by the looks of things. Both of these guys, first glance, might think they're average Joes, but of course remember this is ladder ranking, not global ladder ranking. And their global ladder ranking is well over the 1500 mark, which I deem to be the average Joe level. So they are both low order pros as far as I'm concerned. Sue me if you don't agree. It's all good. It might be quite an interesting match, this one, especially for Stefan. Now, of course, Cybran have a pretty decent early game Navy, but late game, they're definitely inferior to Seraphim, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see Stefan go quite heavily and aggressively into Navy. As soon as I say it, that line of naval factories gets queued up. He's going to want to stall any kind of naval production coming out of Hammac. Hammac, conversely, is able to play the waiting game should he desire to do so and just build up, because late game he's going to have the advantage of those sub-hunters and of course the Seraphim cruisers as well, pretty darn handy in their own right. Fantastic for bombarding at range, which is ideal on a map like this with so much water. So it's going to be interesting to see how these two guys play this one out. Both getting a couple of interceptors in the air early. Scout plane hovering over the top of Hammac. These first two scout planes are going to be wanting to shoot down transports that are going to be expanding to the other islands. No transports there for Hammac. He might be just going landwards, but there indeed is a skyhook for Stefan. Had Inti coming out from Hammac, getting embroiled in a dogfight over the top of Stefan's base first of all, but he's going to want to tie that down if he can. Those interceptors coming in, making a beeline straight for it. Another one coming in on the way as well, and he's going to risk picking up the engineers anyway, Stefan. 6 of those on board. He doesn't want to lose all those. That would be an absolute catastrophe. And another interceptor coming in. He probably wasn't expecting it. He's going to bring that back to safety. God, that was close. 24 hit points left on that sucker, but he manages to defend. He's going to send these interceptors to screen a little bit. And where's he actually going? He's not actually sending them to this island here. He's going to go and be very aggressive with them. This is a drop planned for the southeastern island. That's going to be typically Hammac's island, at least if he has anything to do with it. He's already got an engineer coming over there. But another facet of Seraphim play, especially on an island-based map like this, Roanoke's, is how useful the Zooey is. You can see Hammac already employing that. The stream of Zooeys going to these other islands, incredibly annoying. It's a very efficient way to attack your opponent as well. You could just set up lots and lots of land factories and all these bases and just rally point Zooeys, and because of the difficulties, the open space that gives you, it becomes very hard for your opponent to counter with intel to see effectively or efficiently where the threat is coming from. So you can see Hammac employing that very nicely indeed. Stefan manages to drop off all 6 of those engineers without any real difficulty. Some Intis coming in there from Hammac, was aware of the presence once they flew over those northern Zooeys there. But of course now with the Zooeys in play, it's going to be pretty darn difficult for Stefan to affect any real incursion here with these engineers. 2 go down already. He's going to have to micro these very well indeed. Another one goes down. I think this is probably going to be a lost cause, down to just 2. And he actually lifts off the transport to try and evac them, but he's going to have to be quick not to get any shells landing on the transport. And he ends up losing them anyway, so that transport with those engineers does in fact die in a fire, which is a very sad tale indeed. But Stefan already coming down, making contact at the main base of Hammac with that first sliver, that T1 sub there. It's come straight down there, first one off the conveyor belt, wants to get around here and deny any potential investment into the naval game to hamper Hammac's exposure to Navy in this. But I'm quite surprised actually Hammac hasn't tried or even started to build a naval factory. I guess he feels he can do this one on the land game, but I think that certainly gives a leg up to Stefan in this one. If I were him, I'd be wanting to utilize that Navy ASAP. But of course, I suppose that allows you to invest heavily in some T1 hover spam, which is obviously what he's going for in this one. These guys at the moment looking at around 50-50 map control each. But look at this, the slivers piling up on the shoreline, and this could really cause problems for Hammac. Major issues if he starts getting bombarded from this. One could be over before it begins. Already has T2 tech there. He's got a T2 power generator in play. He's working on another one. But also focusing quite heavily on spitting out those interceptors. Wants to retain air control as well around here. Torpedo bombers might be his only way to deal with these naval units now. At least for the foreseeable future anyway. And these little Zooies making their way north. You see a little group of 3 over there in the west, a group of 2 over there in the east. Gonna knock down that engineer, I'd imagine, and that mechs on their way past. Engineer is ordered to retreat, doesn't make it though. That mechs is also gonna go down on the way past. And this is what I mean about how annoying this is. They can just be sent anywhere. They're gonna come up around here, knock down these 2 rear mass points, and then effect an entry to the rear of Stefan's base. And there's also these 2 on this side going to do a similar action, so that's kind of annoying for Stefan, and he could be facing a lot more of that in this game. Having said that, on the other side of things, conversely, Stefan now has quite a significant advantage if he can continue to pile up naval units down here. Hammac having made no investment into the naval game whatsoever, or at least so far, could be facing insurmountable odds down here. But we can see the transition to T2 air complete there for Hammac, and those torpedo bombers going straight after. Initially I think it was no, it wasn't after it. They were going to that frigate, but of course dropping torpedoes from the wrong angle will get your torpedoes blocked by the land. That Trident eventually destroyed, and we're now seeing the emergence of some T2 PDs in play on that main island, which is going to make life even harder for those Tridents to affect any kind of damage on that island. But as soon as we see T2 Navy, and we're going to see it soon from Stefan, that could be a game changer. Salem already in production, and the Salems are well and good, but when the Sirens, the cruisers, start turning up down here, these torpedo bombers are going to have a serious mountain to climb if they're going to continue to keep up with the spam of naval units coming in. Now we're getting some escorting interceptors in play from Stefan down here. They managed to vanquish those defending interceptors of Hammac's, and now they can go after the torpedo bombers, making life even more tricky there for Hammac. And that first Salem very nearly complete. Those Zooies parked just a little bit too close to that mechs, not able to get a solution. Their guns don't train that low. Needs to move those off slightly to complete the destruction of that one. I don't know if you'll get a chance. You can see a Trident there circling around the edge of that island, looking for a solution. He's going to snag at least one of them, and that middle one might be just too far away. But those 3 Zooies we saw earlier, having knocked out those mexes, are now working on making a entry into that section of the base, but one cheeky little engineer on repair duty, picking up those mexes once again, so no real danger there for Stefan. Not at the moment, at least not at the moment. Seeing some engineers grouping the edge of the island here, and please tell me that is the start of your navy, Hammac, because quite frankly I think you need it. You cannot simply hope, I don't think, to win at this level a game like this with just Zui spam. You're going to have naval presence, surely. And we've actually got transport heading over here to the northeastern island. That could be gearing up for a Zui drop, or it could be gearing up to airlift engineers over here once this attack has happened. You can see this little production facility down here. 3 land factories just spewing out Zuis to a rally point on this island that's just southeast of the northeastern island on this map. And once that's sent in, of course, in any given time, direct fire units, when they're microed, are going to have the advantage against artillery. But remember, that's not a great deal of freedom of movement on these small islands, so it could be hard to avoid, especially on a map like Roanoke's when you're going 1v1. There's so many other places you've got to worry about. And that point defense has been knocked down by that Salem, allowing it to come a little bit closer. It's focusing on the moment on that mass point, currently shielded by that T2 shield gen at the back. And I'm pretty sure the torpedo bombers should be able to chew through that Salem's HP before it can get through that shield. Where are we at shield-wise? It's down to around 45% or so. But that's Salem well in the red there. Let's see why it's such a good idea to nestle in up against the shoreline. Only torpedo bombers coming in from this direction or this direction are going to hit. Everything else is going to land on the ground. Can't blame them, of course. They're just simple machines operating in here. They go where they're told. But Hammac walks forward and finishes off that Salem with his ACU man style. But we have finally got some naval factories have been constructed over here at the southwestern island there for Hammac. Of course, the only problem is there is a scout plane hovering above, so Stefan will be well aware of the presence of those naval factories, and if he's got any sense, he'll be dispatching some units over that way to deal with it. He's actually got some Corsairs that are en route. That's quite interesting. Probably wants to keep the pressure up down here, and he's going to be able to do that now because we have the first Siren, the first cruiser in place, and that's going to make life considerably harder for Hammac, who's been trying to deal with this whole naval situation from the air. Extra firepower coming off that cruiser, of course. Very, very annoying indeed if you're trying to use torpedo bombers to knock aside the threat. Hammac having some power issues yet there. That shield blinking on and off, having to withdraw his ACU. I wonder what's causing the power issues, what upgrades he's doing and where. On the eco side of things, Stefan for the moment running ahead with it. If we take a look at what's going on here, Zui attack has begun and he swept aside everything on this side of the island. And look at this, Mantis cowering in fear of the horrendous damage of the Zui at the northeastern edge of that, or the northern edge. Finally they get their attack order, but it's too little too late. They've lost all of the production facilities on that island and almost all of the resourcing options as well. Meanwhile, a few mexes have been destroyed from that little Zui push at the back of Stefan's base too. And indeed, there go the naval factories as we thought they would. Stefan not able to repel the fire from Corsairs from the sky, as well as some slivers and tridents on the sea. He did manage to throw together a T1 torpedo launcher, which is currently surviving on just 10 hit points, which is quite surprising. They've changed the attack order there. And astonishingly, they might actually be able to hang on to this naval factory. I think Thankfully, a couple of Suicals, a couple of T1 Seraphim subs in play there, assisting him with that endeavor. But look at this. Sirens parked off the edge of Hammac's base, now just pummeling the resourcing option, this land factory on the edge here. And Hammac's going to have to turtle up in the center here, maybe even consider building some artillery or something, temporarily fend off these cruisers. More cruisers on the way, of course. Not ideal, but Stefan has lost that northeastern island, at least more or less all of the mass on it. A couple of renegades there, so we've got a transition, of course, to T2 Air. We saw the Corsairs as well there from Stefan a little bit earlier, but another Zui drop coming in from Hammac right to the back, and that must have been an earlier Zui drop as well that took out those 3 mexes and caused all of this damage. There's far too much of a mass field, far too much devastation for that to have just been the odd Zui that traipsed up there on foot. That drop complete, those Zuis now just waiting for the order to go in. On they're going to go, and they're going to knock down another T2 mechs. It's going to be really quite annoying. See how things look from Stefan's point of view. Those units just emerging into view. He's trying to throw together some auto guns, but he's not going to get to complete them in time. He's going to lose a lot of build capacity in the process as well. And this could be quite the devastating little attack. You can see he's trying to bring his tridents in around the back. They have such a limited range. That's going to be really difficult. This has been a nasty little drop now from Hammac. It's caused a lot of damage. 3 mechs is down once again. If they could take out all 3 of these T2 P-gens, Stefan will be in a pretty pickle. There goes one of them. They need to take down the shield gen before it respawns. There it does. Oh, just in time to block the next volley of shots. It's going to be close. Renegades turn up just in time. But they do get that second P-gen. What, if anything, does it do to Stefan's power situation? You can see temporarily knocking him down into the yellow there. That's the worst abuse I ever saw. Not exactly sure what Stefan's referring to there. Can't be the Zui. That's totally legit, bro. But those Sirens now changing tack a little bit, going after this island in the kind of 430 position. And Hammac dispatching a large number of Zuis to deal with it, but unfortunately Stefan is paying attention. He's going to be able to micro these ships away. It's going to be tough for those Zuis to catch up with it, but he might get some opportunities with these torpedo bombers. Alas, 4 torpedo bombers, only enough to take it down to around 60% of its HP. And coupled with that sea-to-air fire and these escorting interceptors, those torpedo bombers don't get a second pass. But look at this. Finally, we've got a nice little navy that's appearing on the field for Hammac. He was able to maintain that naval factory. He's now upgraded it. It's running T2, and he's starting to produce destroyers. And that could threaten this island as well. Stefan already having lost this island. He is now down on mass, especially after that lovely little Zui drop that we just saw engaged at the back of that island there. 134 to 120 mass. That was up in the 160s a minute ago for Hammac. But Stefan floating a large amount of mass. He doesn't have the power, though, to spend the mass at the moment. That's mainly his issue. And this little fleet over in the west for Hammac has been delayed en route to that top left island because he wants to hang around and finish off these tridents. Just one remains, and not for much longer, I shouldn't think. He should be able to knock that out with that rear one. There we go. But meanwhile, combination of these Sirens and these Renegades absolutely ripping through all the defenses on this southeastern island for Hammac. Another wave of torpedo bombers coming in. That should be good enough to knock down one of these cruisers at least. 5 are going to get another pass, maybe. I might have spoken too soon. 3 cruisers now in close proximity, a lot of defending interceptors. It's an expensive way to go after cruisers, that's for certain. Hammac's Inties come in to deal with the renegades. They're going to be able to manage all but one of them that's going to survive with next to nothing, maybe. 75 hit points left on him. But Stefan has rerouted his naval forces to deal with this force in the west. It's 4 destroyers and a couple of T1 subs there for Hammac versus a whole horde of T1. But of course, the Seraphim destroyers can just submerge and act like submarines, which completely negates any offensive capability that the Tridents have in this battle. He can sit underwater and just shoot them to his heart's content. Now that all the slivers have been dealt with, incredibly infuriating, and that is what I mean by how nasty the Seraphim Navy can be. I mean, we're all aware of it. We've seen it so many times before. It is their real strength. But a couple of cruisers in play trying to keep away from these Tridents, of course. Those Tridents would be able to deal a great deal of damage to those, take them out without any real difficulty if they catch up to them. So Hammac definitely wants to keep those out of harm's way. Such a useful bombarding tool. And it's interesting, Hammac hasn't brought his naval units back. He wants to damage his opponent. He's less concerned about the damage that these Tridents can dish out than what he can dish out to the opponent, to his opponent. But TAC missiles incoming there from a little TAC missile base on one of those center islands from Stefan. Nice little maneuver there. And once again, Hammac's main base under naval blockade. But that siren might be sitting just a little too close. Hammac's going to show him how it's done. He's going to walk out and just balls out, overcharge it. Down it goes. And he's going to have to be a little bit more careful. See him backing off with those other 2 sirens, those other 2 cruisers. And you don't often see that little plane refueling on the back there. Lots of people forget that the siren cruisers can do that. Refuel some planes on that little helipad style thing at the back there. Very cool stuff. Not the most effective in the grand scheme of things, but very cool nonetheless. But there's quite a lot of Barracudas that have turned up suddenly, along with some slivers, and that might be enough to destroy these destroyers. See what I did there? Indeed, I think it is. And Stefan's going to want to knock these aside and then go after these cruisers if he can catch up with them. That is definitely going to be a win there for Stefan. And Stefan's actually ahead once again in the mass game. There's not much in it. It's jostling backwards and forth. Both of these guys around the kind of 7,000-8,000 mass mark on reclaim, but there really isn't a lot in it in terms of
transport is full.
Actual mass per tick income. Hammac's still sacrificing large quantities of torpedo bombers to try and deal with these sirens. You saw an artillery shell sail over that cruiser there. Stefan confirming his intention to send this replay to me. But another T2 mechs bites the dust, and this is strange. I mean, we've got Barracudas here, we've got a bunch of slivers that should be able to just run over here and kill these cruisers. Unless he's concerned, he might not know what's up here. He might expect these cruisers to have a whole bunch of escorting destroyers, but you should certainly be able to knock them aside. Perhaps it was a mistake in attention span, maybe. There certainly is a lot going on in this one. Trident's parked over here. It seemed to reach this production facility and slowly taking damage from the odd Zooey that comes up and crosses its path. We've got quite a hefty looking Mantis drop coming in now. He wants to take back this island. This is going to be interesting. Of course, they're bunched up when they land, and that's the worst thing you want when you've got a whole bunch of artillery waiting there. They're going to drop off and be in range. They're going to have to move right away. Away go the Zooey shells. And those transports get slaughtered. They haven't even managed to drop their load. There's a hell of a lot of mobile anti-air as well. And that's a really unfortunate drop there for Stefan. Hammac taking virtually no losses. But this is quite a little coup down here at the southwest. Hammac had made the transition to T3 Navy. He even had one sub-hunter in play. But there's just too many Barracudas and slivers in the area. That wasn't enough for him to deal with. And now he's going to lose that naval HQ. So once again, Hammac finds himself without any form of naval production whatsoever. But what really concerns me is the fact these two cruisers are still alive up here at the top, completely undefended, but able to cause a great deal of damage. Stefan needs to pay attention to these missiles that are appearing on his field of view periodically for stuff on this side of the map. I mean, he must wonder what's killed all of this stuff. Maybe he just thinks it's Zooeys. You can see Zooey shells landing there on that factory. But just a couple of slivers would be enough to deal with this, and deal with it effectively as well. Much of the Zooeys now, as they make their way towards the main island, they're going to take a lot of siren fire in the process. I don't think they're going to be able to make it to the base there. Just marching in single file to their doom. It's a bad place to park your boat, Sunshine. But look at this wave of torpedo bombers going after these Barracudas. You've got to give it to Hammac. He's invested a hell of a lot in his torpedo bombers in this game, but they have been effective. He's lost a lot as well, but it's kept Stefan at bay. It's a weird little game, this one. It really is. Hammac now completely devoid of any kind of naval production at all, but has the advantage of map control, of course the ability to throw Zooeys at his opponent. Stefan's still attempting to set up a naval blockade. He desperately needs more cruisers down here now, though. These torpedo bombers can just knock aside these subs at will. I think Stefan's concerned that there's going to be more naval facilities springing up down here. That's why he wants to get down here. He's prepared to throw these units away. He just doesn't want Hammac to get established. I'm sure he'll probably be able to tell us in the comments section below if that's that was his thinking there. But he's definitely going to lose all of those subs. Just 2 Barracudas remain. And once again we see just how remarkably effective a Zooey can be on the right map. It's doubly important, of course, or doubly useful on a map like this, because their effectiveness relies on their naval targets from not being microed. But a nice bombing run there from a wave of Nothers coming in from Hammac. Goes straight after the T2 power grid, knocking down 2 T2 P-gens, and a third one is soon to go as well. This is excellent work from Hammac. What has that done to Stefan's power grid? He's doing alright because there's a T3 P-gen that's recently sprung up here at the back. So it hasn't hurt Stefan as much as he would have hoped. If he can kill that, that will really hurt. Down to around 45% of his HP, 3,840. Takes another bomb, 2,670 hit points left. These interceptors just can't clear up these Nothers quick enough, and huge explosion takes with it the shield gen and a whole bunch of build capacity. And suddenly, Stefan is operating off just one T2 P-gen in this main base, and that's still not safe either. And now Stefan has major power issues. Minus 720 net. He's going to want to rebuild this as soon as possible. You can see he's queued it up there. But he wants to get a T3 engineer there first. There it goes. To get the 50% build bonus on that. But that's a huge paralyzing tool. You can see the mass income dropping down to just 61 there from that power issues. I'm now down to 39. Excellent work there from Hammac. Key targets eliminated. And surprising as well, just when Stefan seemed to have made the transition to T3 air. If only he'd had a few more ASFs in the area, that wouldn't have been possible. He would have knocked aside those Nothers without any difficulty whatsoever. The Omni, of course, had been turned off, goes down, so that's a large portion of potential intel destroyed. But look at the amount of build capacity that gets wiped out with those cruiser missiles from the Seraphim cruisers. That's why they're so dangerous. Another wave of Nothers coming in, going after that power grid. This is excellent work from Hammac, but look at this fleet that's amassed. Stefan has homogenized all of his naval units into one fleet. It's going to be hard to knock aside Hammac totally with that, because if you can't be everywhere knocking down everything at the same time, he's just going to go where the fleet isn't and expand or re-expand on these other areas. But if you can tie down the comm, he might still be able to win this. That's a nasty looking fleet. There's a lot of cruisers in there. It's going to make it hard to take out those naval units from the sky. And of course the ACU won't be able to hide in the water because of all those barracudas. So his only real option if it comes down here will be to turtle up. You can see he's aware of this problem. He's starting to spam heavy shield generators. He also needs to get some artillery, some land-based artillery, T2 I think, to counter those siren cruisers. See just how darn tanky those Salems are. Just absorbing all of that torpedo damage like it's cool. Once again, yet more Nothers harassing Stefan's base. He just can't get his power situation sorted. And now losing T3 mexes as well. Look at the state of Stefan's eco. And a beautiful Zooey drop to boot. Stefan's base is in tatters. He needs to get his commander in to overcharge some groups of Zooeys and keep it on the move so it doesn't take damage. You've still got this cruiser over here as well. It's now going after the air HQ there, but now Stefan's fleet's also making contact with the main base from Hammac. We're going to have to keep track of these two things simultaneously, guys. I know some of you really dislike the split screen format, but sometimes it's essential. It is a useful tool. Those Zooeys still alive on Stefan's island. Huge quantities of build capacity. Just going pop from each spread artillery shell that lands. And that is major troubles, but look at the amount of firepower that's bearing down on Hammac. Yes, he's got a lot of shielding, but will he be able to keep those shields alive or maintain them when these T3 P-gens start going pop? That's a whole other story. Stefan just hovering at the edge of his coastline there, so he has the option of going in the water if he needs to. We've got some Salems making landfall on Hammac's base. This is going to be very interesting finish to this game if this is indeed the end of it. Hammac under shield cover still. Lots of fire coming his way. But Stefan chased into the water. Can he produce enough naval units with no eco to keep his commander safe? More Zuis being dropped inbound. Stefan will now not be able to emerge on this island at all. There is absolutely no chance of that happening. But Hammac finds himself inhabiting an ever-decreasing safe space on his main island. These Zuis with no real task to do with the commander in the water, going after the naval units now, the naval facilities. But look how surrounded Hammac's base is. He's absolutely cornered. Remember, he's not going to be able to go into the water. He'll just get barracudaed to death. See, Hammac's well aware, I would imagine, of the location of Stefan's comm. But Hammac doing a merry little dance now, taking cruiser fire. He's trying to stick to the portions that are shielded, but the torpedo bombers have been sent north rather than trying to defend the base. They're going straight after Stefan's comm. This is going to be awfully close. Hammac is on around 10,000 hit points. Stefan is on around 7,200. More torpedo bombers incoming on Stefan's comm. 6,000, 5,000. Hammac's on 9,000. He's doing a little bit better. Oh, this is going to be so close. It's down to how well Hammac can micro. He's trying to get another shield gen together. That could be very costly indeed to Stefan's cause. There's nothing Stefan can do to protect himself. He's just got to hope he can somehow finish off Hammac first, but I don't think he's going to do it. He's down in the red, taking far too many torpedoes to the head. Tries to bring on a Salem onto land to get inside the shield coverage, but he's not going to manage it. That gets overcharged. And that, I think, was Stefan's last hurrah. It's all over. Down he goes. And Hammac is going to survive that bombardment. What a close ending to actually what was quite a close game. Quite interesting. These guys taking very different tacks strategically. My goodness me. Well played, Hammac, but well played, Stefan, as well. Very interesting replay. I hope you guys enjoyed that. As always, more to come from me in the future. In the meantime, stay well and stay safe. This is Gyle, signing out.